Shalom Aleichem and welcome to Online Smicha, Mochen Le'ira. I'd like to share with you a discussion that I saw in a sefer from a local Besdin. Shaila came up. You know, there's a lot of parents have a lot of pressure to get their children into the right schools and the right camps, and they'll do anything to get their children in. So there was a certain yeshiva, a certain school, that they only took in the best and shenstim. They had a limited amount of space. So a parent came to the meeting and tried to get his kid in. And at the meeting, he tells the administrator, "You take my child, I'll donate $10,000. Sure enough, the administrator hears that, and suddenly the kid makes it into school. 2 months later, they come to collect the $10,000. He says, "I'm not giving it. I only said it to get my kid into school." So the question is if a person does that, is he obligated to pay? And why not? After all, he committed. Because there is a geder in a halacha where a person does things by force, and if he does things by force, it doesn't obligate him. I'll give you an example. The Gemara says in Masechta Baba Metzia Daf Mem Amud Beis. The Gemara speaks about a story of a man who wanted to marry a certain woman, and he knew it's a long shot, or whatever. So he goes over to her and he says, Let's get married. Let's get engaged." So she says, "Fine, we'll get married if you write all your money over to me. All your money over to me." So the man says at that moment, he says, "Fine, let's do it." But before he managed to give her the money, he goes home and he gives all his money as a present to his son, just to get around. This by the way, it sounds like a story from today's days. This is a story in the time of the Gemara. Again, in Bab Metzia Daf Mem. He gave away the money to his son, so he should not have to be liable to give it to his wife. And the question over there, the Gemara discusses, he did that, or he committed to her based on pressure. He said, "Yes, I'll do it," and he did an act to show that he's not interested. V'hardaya, when he came home, gave the money away to her as a present for his son. So people do things, or as we say in English, they do buckle under pressure, even to things they're not able to do. Does he become liable? So in Shulchan Aruch and Choshen Mishpat, Siman Reish Hey Siv Aleph and Beis, there is a distinction between a mechira ba'enis and a matana ba'enis. A person could be forced to sell something, or a person could be forced to give something away as a present. If a person is forced to sell something, the Shulchan Aruch says the bottom line is you got money for it. So if you got money for it, it could be that when you saw the green dollar bills, you said, "You know what? Let it go. Let it be sold." What originated it was by force. Sometimes when you become nisratza, you become happy with the sale when you see the money. How do we know that the sale is not final? So the Shulchan Aruch says that the only way the sale is canceled out is if there are two things happening. Number one, we know for certain that he did it under pressure. We know for certain that it was einus. It was not, we're guessing. We know that it was einus. And number two, the person getting the money said at the time that he took the money that I'm doing it by force because I'm forced and I'm not interested in this. If this is what happened, then even after he got the money, he could say, "I didn't really mean it. Help me out. I want my thing back." But if he doesn't have both of these conditions, what happened, because you got the money, maybe you're happy. This is by a mechira. How about a matana? Somebody was forced to give away a present. However you can figure out what does it mean, a person being forced to give away a present. So by a matana, over here we have less chance to believe that he's happy with what he did. To break the matana that he gave ba'inus, it is enough if there's only one condition. If he just said that I did this for this reason, or he said, that it's known to all that it's because of a einus I'm doing it, then that's enough. That's enough to say that even though it was given away as a matana, he could backtrack, because there's less chance that you're happy that you got the money. This is the din in Shulchan Aruch. Now, in the einus itself, there is a discussion in Achronim who's creating the einus. Typical einus, you think, is you have something and somebody else is holding a gun to your head and forcing you to do it, forcing you to sell, or forcing forcing you to give something away. In the case that we discussed, nobody else forced me. You could say the society forced me. I myself, I feel obligated to get my kid into this camp, to get my kid into this school, that the pressure of my own pressure buckled, and that's what caused me. Is that in the same league? So this is the discussions that come up when they had the Shaila. And therefore the Bezdin that I saw discussing this said like this: if it's common practice that to get your kid into a camp, to get your kid into a school, you got to schmear a little, and everybody knows you give them money, and it was clear to all that the extra money you give will put you on top of the list. Then the exchange between the parent and the school is begeder mechira, and because it's begeder mechira, the only way the guy could get out of not giving his commitment is if he had both of those conditions. He said first of all, it's known that the pressure caused him to do it, and he said clearly, I'm doing it because of the pressure. Then later on, he could say, I'm sorry, I can't pay the money. I don't have the $10,000. But if the donation was not connected to any condition, and not everybody does this, then it's a gather of matana. And when it's a gather of matana, it's enough to have one condition to make him free from this obligation. Because by a matana, the onus of a matana is easier to break because he doesn't have so much in return.